Hi, everybody. Please get to your seats. We're literally circling the field and getting ready for a landing. And so we are definitely ready to get rolling. And I want to thank everyone today. We have an exciting afternoon for you, so don't go anywhere. It's my pleasure to introduce, once again, Operation Hope Chairman John Hope Bryant, President and CEO of Atlanta for SunTrust Banks, Jenna Kelly, and the Superintendent of the Atlanta Public Schools, Maria Carsafaris.
Hey, everybody. You know, we've been having this problem all week. I've got low self-esteem, and you got the key to my hope, and I keep begging you for some kind of, oh, you're not paying any attention to me because you see the real star behind me. So I'm not going to ask you to give me any love. I'm going to ask you to give some love and some recognition for one of the greatest school superintendents in the entire country, the superintendent of Atlanta Public Schools, Maria Carsafaris. So, am I doing this or are you doing this? All right. Like I said, I'm going to get away from the mic.
Okay. All right, then I'm up first. Good afternoon. I'm Jenna Kelly, and I serve as the president of the Georgia Division for SunTrust Bank. More than 125 years ago, we were founded here in Atlanta, and our purpose as a company is to light the way to financial well-being. And we do that for the clients and communities we serve. 2 years ago, we launched a movement called the On Up Movement to help America take a step towards building financial confidence. And today, I'm really excited to announce that more than 3 million people have joined our movement and are taking those small steps to improve their finances. We've been fortunate to have Operation Hope as a committed partner in that effort from the beginning, and their focus on financial literacy and economic education to empower people really aligns well with our purpose. Today, I'm excited and privileged to be here to announce that we are furthering that partnership by sponsoring an Operation Hope financial well-being coach dedicated exclusively to Atlanta Public Schools. With 5,000 teachers and staff, APS is responsible for educating our next generation of Atlantans. And their mission is so critical because the lessons that they teach in the classroom are going to create our next business, civic, and community leaders. So it's all the more important that they are able to focus on that mission every day and not be concerned about financial stress. The success of this program is real. Throughout our more than 5-year partnership with Operation Hope, we've helped nearly 18,000 people move from financial stress to financial confidence. And we're committed at SunTrust to continue to expand that program to 200 of our retail branches by the year 2020, with the goal of serving 150,000 people every year. I want to thank Operation Hope for their commitment to financial empowerment, and I really want to thank Atlanta Public Schools. We're excited about the partnership and appreciate their focus on improving the financial well-being and financial confidence of their employees. So with that, let me turn it over to the superstar, Dr. Maria Carsafaris.
Thank you. You're very sweet. I'm really excited to be here today. John Hope Bryant just told me that no matter how many Hope Inside and partnerships they have around financial literacy, Atlanta Public Schools is his favorite. So it's always great being the teacher's pet, right? But we are so grateful for the partnership and the legacy investment that SunTrust is making in our employees for Atlanta Public Schools. You know, no superintendent or school board does this work alone. We have so many needs in urban public education where kids have, and their families, quite frankly, you can't even help the kid without really helping the family and helping teachers and employees who are in front of them every single day. And so in the workplace, the biggest stressor on staff is around financial literacy, understanding how they can make better financial decisions when they are in jobs that are sometimes low-wage jobs, if you're a support staff member, or you're a teacher. We don't pay our teachers enough. We don't pay our educators enough. And so when they're planning and trying to figure out what they're doing in their lives so that they can really focus on kids, it's important to give them the tools that they need to be able to do this. This commitment by SunTrust will contribute to the financial wellness of our staff members. And when our staff is less stressed, that means they treat our kids better, they're able to engage in better relationships and do the thing that we really need them to do. We want to ensure that when they're working with our kids and feel good about themselves, they're able to do what we need to happen in public education. We need them to break the cycle of violence. We need them to break the cycle of ignorance and illiteracy. We need them to break the cycle of poverty that so many families and kids experience. And for sometimes it involves making sure they can do that for themselves and their families. And so I know that it's a big charge or expectation of Operation Hope and SunTrust, but I couldn't be more honored or proud to be in partnership with them today. On behalf of Atlanta Public Schools, I'd like to thank both of you for being the leaders that you are, for wanting to invest in public education, and wanting to be sure that we have a workforce for the future that is educated and excited about being in Atlanta. And I can do that better today than I could yesterday because of Hope Inside. So thank you so much. For my necklace.
That's right. So I don't want you guys to think I only give awards to people who give me money. Although that's mostly true. This is important to me. She mentioned a secret that it was my most personal hope inside. Because when I grew up in Compton, California, when I was at school at 9 years old, my teacher was not financially literate. And so we had to bring a volunteer in to come and teach financial literacy in home economics class, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. And do we have it? No. No, yeah.
No.
And so the banker came in, and after 3 sessions, I asked the banker, I was so fascinated, what do you do for a living, and how'd you get rich legally? Because nobody in my neighborhood wore suits. And nobody, unless you were a detective and it was a bad suit. Nobody in my neighborhood had a business card. Nobody in my neighborhood had a white collar. It was all blue collar. Nobody in my neighborhood was on a salary. I mean, there was no skyscrapers in my inner city neighborhood. So what am I going to dream about? And if all you see in your neighborhood is symbols of success are rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers, I'm not putting those in the same category. I'm just saying that unfortunately that's the vision we see. We see rap stars and we see athletes. Okay, that's 3,000 jobs, maybe. And then the hope, the other piece is not even a job at all, but that's all we see. So why are anybody surprised we model what we see? So we need something different to see. Anyway, I asked this guy, so what do you do for a living? How'd you get rich legally? He said, young man, I'm a banker and I finance entrepreneurs. I said, sir, I don't know what an entrepreneur is, but if you're financing them, I'm going to be one. And that changed my life. And I'm essentially an entrepreneur today because of what my 9th grade class did for me. And I decided that we had to really pay it forward and come full circle and support our teachers who do so much for us and get very little in return. Our teachers should be some of the best paid people in the whole country. They are literally putting the army of hope on the field, literally putting the army of hope on the field. 4th grade through 12th grade is the best. That's the bench strength for the playoff games of the rest of our lives. And they don't get the credit they deserve. We blame them for everything that is not going right in society. We want to blame all the schools, the teachers, and we should be doing our job. So the very least we can do is say thank you. So you get one of my $5 plates. Maria Kostarfin, Hope Innovation Leadership in Education Award. It is a first ever award, ever. Why? Because I couldn't say it properly? In recognition of the innovative partnership between Atlanta Public Schools and Operation Hope and SunTrust, supported by SunTrust, Bryant Group Motorsports Academy, which is what we're doing there around STEM education, by the way, made possible by your visionary leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in saying thank you to Maria Gustafson.
Thank you.
Come on, please. Can you please tell them very quickly what you're doing for Martin Luther King's holiday? Very quickly.
Oh, goodness.
Come on.
Oh my God. Okay, so this weekend, well, of course, in April, we're commemorating the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King. And in part, we've been training and working with Atlanta Public Schools employees, many of them who were not healthy, who needed a real change in their lifestyle. I built a team, and we ran the inaugural Selma to Montgomery 51-mile race from Brown Chapel over the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where Bloody Sunday happened, down Highway 80 forever and ever and ever, all the way through downtown Montgomery to the steps of the Capitol, where Martin Luther King did his speech that changed the nation and its position on voting rights for African Americans, and of course launched the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So anyway, so I hope that all of you are thinking about what you're doing from where you sit to change the nation and to change the face and the future of what we're all doing. And I know, hope is part of your name, but I have to say Operation Hope does give me hope for the future, and I just am so appreciative. I just love you guys, and I love y'all, and thank you for having me.
We love you too.
But I do love what we stand for as a nation when it comes to civil rights, and I just want to say thank you to those people before me that made it possible for me to be an African American superintendent in the city of Atlanta, which is one of the greatest privileges I will have in my lifetime. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Proud of you.
Gotta love her, running toward the future. All right, folks, we are honored now to have with us one of the world's most dynamic executives. Please help me welcome the CEO of Delta Airlines, Ed Bastian. And of course, we've got John Hope Bryant back.
Aren't you guys getting tired of me yet? Whoa, wait a minute. I know you've met this CEO, that CEO. You got tired of billionaires yesterday.
Thank you. Thank you.
The greatest airline on the planet, in the greatest city on the planet, run by one of the coolest dudes on the planet, even dresses like a brother, see? Ed Bastian.
Thank you, John.
That's a cool suit, man.
Thank you. I love you too.
So let me start with the obvious. First of all, Ed really walks his talk. So I'm going to acknowledge Ambassador Young will be here soon. He was on your board for, I think, a decade.
Long time.
And you should know that the reason that Delta Airlines flies to Africa is because of Ambassador Andrew Young. And you should know that when he first suggested it, before Ed got there, people thought it was a bad idea. And I believe one of your most profitable routes now is Atlanta to South Africa and Atlanta to Nigeria, is that true?
Yeah, we've got some of our best routes going to the African continent, and we're the only U.S. major that does it, so don't tell the other guys to start.
That's right.
And we're looking to expand.
So it's not charity, it's not a handout. You didn't do it because Ambassador Young, this is a nice thing, we're an honorable icon, Ambassador Young. I mean, you put his name on a plane, which is respectful, but you didn't go do these routes because it was a nice thing to do. You did these routes because it's good business.
It's great business, and it's also a great thing to do.
Very good. So, and you're my favorite airline. I'm there 3 or 4 times a week, and you guys are so consistent. Your people are so kind, consistently kind, as if they act as if they're owners.
Yeah.
And on that point, just to show you how much Ed shows up with full force, I got up yesterday, and I was going to bed actually, and I thought I was sort of seeing things. I start seeing upstairs Delta Airlines signage everywhere. So this dude not only decided to show up for a speech, he brought like 600 employees and did a conference upstairs and dropped some money at the hotel. So wherever Kevin Boucher is, I want to renegotiate our hotel contract. I want to cut that revenue. On a serious point, and there's no partisanship in this meeting room. We don't throw people under buses. We treat people with respect. We give respect even to those who don't give respect to us. So I'm not going to speak to details, because I'm assuming that everybody here is an educated person that reads the newspaper. At the very least, you read the internet, and you know what's been going on in the last few weeks that somehow involved my friend Ed Bastian. Let me just say this. Number one, in an environment where you can't seem to find anybody to stand up for what's right, to say what they believe, to stand up for poor people and victims and the indigent and those who don't have a voice, to stand up for something that may upset somebody, but to do it for the right thing to do it just because it's the right thing to do. And then, my God, you can't get CEOs to stand up at all or leaders to stand up at all, but my God, to have somebody threaten your balance sheet or threaten your business and say, if you don't back down, we're going to harm you in some way. And then for you to then calmly say something I think is going to be your calling card for the rest of your career. Our values are not for sale.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Much more than somebody hurting your business, I think that they just helped your business, because people who I spoke to from both sides of the aisle, by the way, said that's the kind of company I want to be associated with, because my children don't have a political party.
That's right.
My children don't get a vote. They just go, I want them to go to school, and I want them to come home safely. And thank God that somebody is messaging in a way that's responsible. It's not complicated. It was like the Gettysburg Address. It was like really short. Like, our values are not for sale. President Bill Clinton once told me, it's hard to get somebody to agree to the truth when the lie is paying their paycheck. I want you to think about that for a minute. If you want to understand all the problems in this country, I'm going to repeat that. It's hard to get somebody to agree to the truth when the lie is paying their paycheck. And if you want to understand why Jesus got assassinated and Dr. King got assassinated and Malcolm X was taken out and whoever your leaders are, Gandhi, that's it. Too much truth. So for you to step into this breach and do the right thing and say the right thing, even when you were being threatened, says enormous things about your calmness and your balance and your character. You're reasonably comfortable in your own skin. I thought I liked you before. I'm in love with you now.
I love you too, Joe.
Yeah, I got a guy crush on you, brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later, right? My fiance is looking a little strange right now.
Listen, thank you for your kind comments. We got a lot of feedback on both sides of the topic. And people said it was a very brave thing to do. It was the right thing to do. And it didn't take a long time to decide that. We're out in the public, 80,000 employees flying 200 million customers a year. You've got to stand up for your customers. You got to stand up for what you believe in. And people want to hear what your company is in today's society more than ever. And that's the company they want to have the relationship with. So we didn't do it for economic gain, as I said, and they weren't for sale. And we're happy to kind of move on.
Yep.
And the state will decide, does what it does, but we're not going to let the state decide how we run our business. We're believers in the freedoms of the Second Amendment. We're also believers in the First Amendment.
So I saw there are 2 other states that said, including New York, if Georgia doesn't want you, we do. It reminds me of Paul Austin Jr. is here. His dad was a CEO of Coca-Cola in the 60s. And when Dr. King won the Nobel Peace Prize, everybody thinks that it was about tea, coffee, cookies, and nice feelings, but it really wasn't the case. Dr. King was called Martin Luther King, Martin Luther Coon, Uncle Tom, Sellout, and Wannabe, and those were from his friends. And so don't understand that leadership is often not easy. It's often very difficult. And no good deed shall go unpunished. So when Dr. King was coming in town, the business community did this. We're not going to honor him. And the mayor went to the man who had more credibility, went to Paul Austin, CEO of Coca-Cola. Will you please talk to him? And Paul Austin said, very simple, this man's won the most important award in the world. The world is looking at us. We're an international supply chain company. You don't want to honor him? That's fine. We're going to move out of this backwards town and go someplace where people got some sense. Within a day, it had sold out. And what you see on photographs now is it was lined up. My friend Maria Porter knows this. The people lined the walls of that meeting. So history looks elegant and simple in the snapshot. But in reality, it took Paul Austin to step up and say our values are not for sale. And here we are on the cusp of Dr. King's anniversary for giving his life so that others will have life. And we have another CEO that steps up and says our values are just not for sale.
Thank you. Thank you.
And again, we love everybody, and we hope the state comes to their senses and all that kind of. We love everybody. We love the state. We love Republicans. We love Democrats. I love everybody. Now, your company has a unique culture and pedigree, and I can feel it when I'm on a plane. And we're talking about doing some stuff. We're still talking about that, but whether you do some stuff with us or not, you've already done a lot of very innovative things that enrich the corporate culture, that shares prosperity with your employees. Why do you do this? Why don't you just take more money and give it to your shareholders? Of course, the short-term view is every dime needs to go to the shareholders and starve your employees and starve your planes and starve your maintenance and starve your immigrants. That's hardcore capitalism. I'm not serious, by the way. But that's what some people say. Yep. Why did you have a different approach, and what are some of the things you're doing?
Well, everyone here remembers us 15 years ago, and we weren't the condition we are today. We were in a pretty dark place, difficult times, went through a bankruptcy process. Life turns you upside down, turned our industry upside down. 9/11 turned us upside down. And we had to make a lot of tough choices. A lot of our employees lost their jobs. A lot of our employees took pay cuts. They lost their pensions, lost their benefits. It was one of the hardest periods of my life to have to go through just to keep the company alive and go through that. And we made a commitment during that time that when this thing does turn around, the employees of Delta Airlines would be paid first before anybody else. And so back then, and still today, 15% of the profits of the company go to our employees.
Repeat that again?
15% of the profits of Delta Airlines goes to our employees. And the management doesn't participate in that.
Management does not participate.
We don't participate in it. Our employees get paid. And by the way, if our employees don't get paid, I don't get paid, which is the way it should be.
That's right.
And so last year, we made almost $6 billion. Wow. Which means our employees made $1.1 billion in profit sharing. And it's so the questions when I'm with our team repeatedly is what do we do to make our profit sharing checks bigger next year? It means we have to serve people better. We have to be able to drive more preference to the brand. We have to have our equipment operate even more effectively and efficiently than they already do, and that we already are the most efficient operator in the world.
You are?
We are, but it's not even close. We had last year, we had 242 days of the year without a single cancellation on the airline.
Wow.
That is
not one.
Not one. 242 days of the year. If you add all of our large competitors combined, we had twice as many cancel-free days as all of them combined. And as a result of that, the quality of the service is at the top of the charts, and now we're looking for the next mountain to climb.
So you attribute, I'm saying this, but I'm asking the question, just feels like this is a natural question to ask you. It appears to me, Ed, that you attribute the success of Delta and its continued prosperity and profitability in part to your employees, including the ramp workers, the flight attendants, the drivers, the maintenance people, and that you feel there's a responsibility that as you prosper, they must have an opportunity to prosper too?
I would just correct one thing in what you said, not in part, but entirely due to our employees. We, you know, today's world, it's common for people to come up and talk about customer service, and it's all about the customers and obsess about customers.
Yeah.
At Delta, what truly sets us apart is we obsess about our employees. And our ability to obsess on our employees allows them to obsess on all of you, and it makes me very proud.
Now, yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed it. Now, and I travel different airlines. I won't name the names, but I don't know if you noticed it, but you get on some of these airlines, and it's like you're doing them a favor. I'm sorry, like they're doing you a favor. Attitude. What you want? Some peanuts? What? 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 I'm busy. And you get on the Delta flight, and it's gracious, it's kind, and it's warm. It's like they actually care.
Yeah, they do.
I do care. Have you guys noticed that?
Because, bringing it full circle, we were just talking about the profit sharing.
Yeah.
And we distribute the profit sharing every Valentine's Day.
Oh.
So if there's a day of the year you want to fly Delta, it's Valentine's Day. Everybody is happy. Everybody's in a party atmosphere. But I remind our team all the time when we hand out those checks on Valentine's Day is to thank our customers. Because it's the customers that write those checks, not me. And as a result of that, they remember where it comes from.
Right. So not everything is peaches and cream. Not everything is the way you'd like it. There are still some frustrations that you've got, some things to work out. What are some of the things that keep you up late at night and bedevil you?
Well, you know, the government, the challenges we face in terms of government intervention, I know it's a big topic today, is trade and tariffs and international business. We're a global company. We're an international company. And we compete in a lot of our international markets against companies that are subsidized by their governments.
Oh, wow.
And the Middle Eastern governments particularly. So the Qatar Airways,
right.
Emirates, Etihad, where they don't have any, they don't need to show a profit. They don't need to be able to actually return their cost of capital. Because their governments use them as essentially a travel agency to bring people to their country.
So wait a minute. All these, when we see these beautiful planes in the UAE that my man here flies all the time because he's rich, when we, Mr. Brown, when we see these government these beautiful planes that are decked out with gold and suites and all that stuff, they can do that because they've got no cost for the airline.
There's no cost. They're owned 100% by the government. And as a result of that, they're taking our routes away from us. So we can't afford to, we don't fly to Dubai today. In fact, no U.S. airline flies to Dubai. But those three airlines fly 40 times a day to the U.S. Qatar, Etihad, and Emirates. And it's wrong. And it's wrong. We've been in Washington. We're getting traction with the administration. And we just struck a deal with the Qataris. And hopefully we'll have a similar deal with the UAE to make certain that, first of all, there's transparency.
Right.
We all compete on a level playing field.
Right.
And secondly, that their government's not subsidize, the flying any longer, because the flying, while from a customer standpoint it may feel very luxurious, just think when you're doing that, you're putting U.S. people out of work. And it's not the right thing to do. And we'll win in the marketplace, but we also have to make certain our government's aware. So I'd say that's one of the biggest things that we're faced with. Another thing is technology. Technology, you can never get far enough ahead of that. We're investing heavily in technology. I'm excited what we're going to be bringing over the next couple of years in terms of our digital strategies, our mobile apps. We've got to turn the airline into as mobile and agile a company. We're going to be 90 years old next year.
Wow.
Yeah, we can't act like a 90-year-old person, right? We got to act like a Sprite 25-year-old, and so that's what we're continuing to push for. So what you know, the tagline at Delta is keep climbing. It's on every one of our ads.
Yeah.
And I tell our good friend Tim Mapes.
Oh yeah, Tim's a great guy.
Our chief marketing officer.
Yeah.
I tell a good story on him.
Civil rights leader.
A couple of years ago, we adopted the keep climbing theme when we went through the restructuring. And we knew we weren't very good, but we were going to get better, and it was our commitment to continue to get better.
It's aspirational.
Exactly. A couple of years ago, the marketing team came to me and said, you know, we think we're doing a lot better. We should change the motto. You know, not that we've arrived yet, but you know, we're better than we used to be. And something I said, no, we're not doing that. Don't ever bring me that idea. You know, we're going to always continue to get better. We're always going to keep climbing, and we're going to look for new mountains to rise to. And it's a great vision. You know, when you're out when you're climbing a mountain, you're looking higher. You can see more. You're fearless. You know, you start looking down, that's when you start to fear.
That's right.
When you're looking up, you just see nothing but opportunity.
Right.
And also when you're looking up, the other guys can't catch you.
Woo!
You're looking up and they're looking down.
Woo!
So that's what you all have to look forward to. And we're gonna make this airline, you know, not just, we already believe, we're biased, we already believe we're the very best, but it's gonna be even better, particularly for this town.
So two questions. We only have a couple minutes left, but without getting too much history, what you may not know, but Delta was a crop dusting company, basically. It started with a couple of modest planes, and it had a choice. With Atlanta, it really had a choice of whether we were going to be Atlanta or we're going to be Birmingham, Alabama. And the thing that I understand that differentiated is because Birmingham, Alabama is a great city, but they got hung up on race. And we decided, they argued about race, we decided to argue about money. And money's a much easier argument than race was. And they were stuck in this old paradigm. And if you look at Birmingham and Atlanta today, they literally are the tale of two cities. Yep. One got stuck in a discussion about race, and literally many things has not changed. They're trying to change now, but it took a long time. Atlanta was very progressive, and everything has grown, including the airline, and you are now the anchor for the busiest airport in the world.
Right.
So does that reality tie into what you do emotionally that I don't know any other airline does? I was with Ambassador Young when you put his name on a plane.
Yep.
I know you've done several of our civil rights leaders. There's I think a plane for Dr. King, I believe. Why do
Dr. Lowry too.
Dr. Lowry, why do you guys do this? Why is it important?
Well, you know, this is home. And you know, despite all of the fuss around the NRA debate that we just went through a few weeks ago, and despite all the great offers I received from Governor Cuomo and quite a number of other leaders around the U.S., we wanted to affirm we're not moving. This is home, and we believe in investing here first. You know, another thing we do is that after we've now had this profit sharing thing for a number of years, we've paid over $1 billion each of the last 4 years.
Wow.
There's not a company in the world that's done it once. We've done it 4 years in a row.
And all that money goes into the local economy that they're not saving, goes into the local economy.
Exactly. But a few years ago, in fact, one of the first things I had the opportunity to do is when I became CEO, is I said, something doesn't feel right. We're doing profit sharing. It's great for our employees. We got to do profit sharing for our communities. And so we made the decision at that point that 1% of the profits of Delta Airlines forevermore will go back into the communities that we live. And
wow.
So this past year, we put $45 million into our cash, into our communities, a lot of it here in Atlanta, but all other communities around the world as well. And you know, again, it's the right thing for our people because they're very proud, and we've always given a lot, but we've never made that long-term commitment financially. In addition to our hard work we provide, we'll now have the financial resources to back it up.
Now, I'm looking at you strange, Ed. We're going to wrap up. I'm looking at you strange because you just don't make any sense to me at all. And I'm looking at you strange. I'm just trying to figure out whether you have any African or black DNA in you. I'm just trying to figure. You dress, you smooth, you got the nice socks on. You know, you're elegant. You know, you're turning red a little bit, so you sort of match me.
Got a little dark.
Yeah. You're smooth. I'm just trying to figure out whether you're a brother.
That's a hell of a compliment. I hope I am. I know I am.
No, we're all from Africa, but one thing. Come on, I gotta get through this. Hold on. Wendell Brown's embarrassed. He's like, oh my God. So, on a serious note, I met you, and I'm giving this like zero embellishment. I can't say this enough. I meet a lot of people. Most of them have a case of seriousness. Oh, I'm important. I am the mayor. You ain't nothing. But, because the minute you think you're better than somebody else, you literally aren't anything. We all fall short of the grace of God. We all are God's children. We just all trying the best we can, right? And you are normal.
I hope that's okay.
Do you know how abnormal it is to meet somebody in power who's normal? So I met him, no handlers, no bodyguards, nobody tackling me. I said, yo, man, hello. And I asked for his business card. It was actually his email address. I went home right away. I think I typed the email on the way home. He responded back to me, not an aide. It must really frustrate your staff because before anybody else can respond and go, we really can't do that, he's already said, yeah, this is a great idea.
It does. I get in trouble all the time, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. So where does it come from? Quickly on your background.
Well, I'm one of 9 kids. So I grew up in a large house up in upstate New York. Yeah. And so I got myself out of there and started working, right out of school, and never looked back. I like to tell people that, and thanks for the comment, is that at Delta we take ourselves, we take our job seriously, but we don't try to take ourselves seriously. Right. And I don't think that's an attractive quality for people to think about that. You're Mr. Serious, or we want to be approachable, and because the tone that we create for our employees is the tone they create for our customers, and we want everybody to be comfortable and feel at home when you're on Delta. And I think it starts at the top of the organization. Yeah. So I don't think I need to say anything else. You get this, man, don't you? Can you feel him? You're kind. You're kind.
So we aren't human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And I am really deeply honored to not only consider you guys a partner, and hopefully you're going to do more in the future together.
We will.
But to consider you a friend.
Absolutely, John.
And I think you're the kind of role model. No, you ain't perfect. Nobody's perfect. Okay, but you're the kind of role model that we need to see more of in corporate America. And I hope you infect everybody you meet with a spirit of normalcy, excellence, bravery, and courage. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Great.
Okay.
Oh, good work. I like that.
So, my most emotional award for the day for this annual meeting of 2018. You didn't know this, did you?
I did not know this.
Ed Bastian, Delta Airlines, the Hope Corporate Leadership Award, in recognition of Ed Bastian and Delta Airlines for both their sponsorship of the Hope Global Forums and, more importantly, their bold action at a time in history where positive examples are critically needed to set the tone for a brighter, more hopeful future. Now, that's the official text. But what this really says is our values are not for sale award.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Love you, too. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
We're coming home. Coming to the home stretch. Coming to this home stretch.
All right, we literally are circling the field for a landing. As a set of chairs here, have a few hellos to some very special people here in the room. In particular, and I hope I don't mess up this lady's name, Astra Armbruster-Roll. She is Consul General of Atlanta, representing the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Please give her an applause. Also, David D. Cutting, he is Honorary Consul of Barbados, where I still have to visit. And representing the Government of Canada is Nadia Theodore. She is Consul General right here in Atlanta. So Atlanta continues to be an outstanding international city. We've got quite a group coming up for you, and I guess I'm wasting time until they get here now? Okay. Folks, I hope you have exchanged cards, met the people next to you. As I began the day, all 3 days, get to know the person next to you. You never know who can help you make your dreams come true. And this is such a networking event, and if you leave here without a number of cards, then you have wasted your time and your money, because that's what this has been all about. It is looking toward the future. It is preparing all of us as mentors to move forward and to help be the change agents that we all need to be in order to help not just lift ourselves or our family or our community, but also the world. We have to be the faces that are going to be visible in change in the world. And that's what's so very important. If we're not the change, we're going to continue to be sitting in the corner waiting for somebody else to give it to us. Also, don't forget, a number of the marketplace people are still there waiting for you to come and say hello. So many of them have some great products and also a lot of great gifts. So if you don't have something now from them, get their cards and maybe think about them in the future. The marketplace is where it all begins, and in many cases, it's not just the kids, there are some others too. Next year, we're going to be back. It'll be another exciting time, but oh, have you had a good time this time? Good. And have you also learned a lot? Because that's the most important thing. We've had some excellent speakers. You know, there's always going to be tweaking, but we've heard the true stories of so many people and how they got to where they are. We each have a different story. I was talking with someone today, and they were talking about a gentleman that they had met who had an Uber account. Hey, could you please quiet down over there? You're going to have time to talk after I'm done. But you're going to want to be here when the other guys get here, because we're going to be talking about a lot of the economics of entertainment. And there are many of you out there who've come up to me, and I know, and to others, saying that they're going to be wanting to be singers and actors and working in the business and things along those lines. And so it's really important that we listen to these stars who will tell you about their bumps and the roll up and down the hills, because nothing ever goes completely up. There's always that rolling form. And also the fact that you need economics, but you also need a network of people to help make you go through. But anyway, he was talking to an Uber driver, and the guy was only about 27 or 28 years old, and he said his life was really messed up because he had been someone, and I don't know if you all, when you left college, you got all these, credit card applications, and of course he applied for many of them and was in major debt, not only for the college, but also for the credit cards. And he was looking at his life as it was already over at 27 years old, but he was doing okay. He was going to make it with Uber. Well, I don't know about you, but for me, unless you're the CEO of Uber, that's not a career. That's a move to move you to a career. And what he needed to do was change his thought pattern. And that's what we all need to do, is change our thought patterns. We have to think positive. We have to say every day as we get up, it's going to get better. Or maybe it is better, because it's not going to. It has to be it is, and that's what we have to think. Years ago, I used to think, well, I'll never be a millionaire. Well, I'm not yet, but every day I get up and I look in the mirror and I say, not I'm just a millionaire, I'm a multimillionaire. So one day, when I get back up here, I will be a multimillionaire. But I take the steps every day to get to that point. If you're not doing that, then maybe you're not quite thinking in the right lane for yourself, because that's what you have to do, is move in the right lane and thinking positive for yourself, because you too can become the person that makes the change. And when you've got the green behind you, it doesn't matter what color you are. The green will get you through. All right? So let me see how they're doing back here. We're still getting mic'd. So we want to, again, remind you all to have a safe trip home, because that's so important too. And go home with thoughts in mind. Everything starts locally. Make sure those you love, if they're of voting age or will be, are signed up to vote. Let us rewrite midterm elections. Please, let us rewrite midterm elections. No party should have control of our Congress as long as a party has. And I grew up Republican. My parents were Republican. I'm from Kansas. But Bob Dole was one of the most wonderful people in the world, okay? And I can say that because I met him and my dad supported him for well over 50 years. So we're ready to get rolling, folks. You may not see me again, but I want to thank you all for your constant support. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And wish you all blessings for moving forward, because with God's hands and you're holding, you're going to make a great, great difference in this world. So here we go. In closing, getting real, the economics of entertainment. We've got a real treat for you. Please give a big welcome to Chris Tucker, Chaka Zulu, T.I., John Hope Bryant, Emmanuel Lewis, and Ambassador Andrew Young.
Hey!
Which one you want?
Hey, don't
Where you sitting at?
What
Sit
is
here,
he?
let him sit center.
Okay. You say you want me to sit here?
Yeah, you good.
You sure?
Hello, Atlanta!
What's
Hello,
up?
world.
My mic work.
You know, it's hard out here being a pimp.
Man on the day.
Trying to get the money for the rent. With that gas money spent.
Ambassador.
You know, it sure is hard being a pimp.
Ambassador, since you said that, how did you feel when Richard Pryor mentioned your name in live, one of Richard Pryor's classic stand-ups, since I'm a comedian? He mentioned Ambassador Young's name
Live
in
from
it.
Sunset Strip.
How did you feel? What did you say when everybody say, Richard Pryor just mentioned your name? You're live in Sunset Strip, yeah.
No, that was what he was saying about, he was talking about black men. We better leave that alone.
We better leave that alone,
Okay, like,
yeah. We better leave that alone.
I tell you what. It ain't nothing but a peanut.
Oh, yeah, that's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke.
oh my God.
That was classic.
But we've asked these are my outside children. You know, I have watched them grow up, and 1 minute they were just little hoodlums on the street. And the next minute, they stars. And that is a very hard transition. And the ones we have here are the ones that made it. And for everyone that makes it, there are probably a dozen or more, 100 or more, that kind of fall by the wayside. And it's not because they're not talented. It's probably because they don't learn how to manage or handle money. And they don't have anybody. So we're here talking about financial empowerment. And the money that runs through the hands of our athletes and our entertainers is enough to change our communities, but you are amongst the few that have been able to survive and make an impact on the community. And I kind of give you and the mayor credit, all of you all, the fact that they made Black Panther 80% here.
Right.
And
Right.
your industry is what, a $9 billion industry now?
It is.
In Atlanta.
Yeah.
Bigger than Los Angeles and Hollywood put together.
Yeah.
How you do that?
I'll start off by saying, my name is Chaka Zulu, for those who don't know. I'll start off by saying that entertainment and sports, well, couple that together, is our natural resource.
Amen.
It is a real natural resource, and we have to cultivate it and mine it as such. You know, like I said, you know, one day we were doing one thing, you know, and then the next day you become stars, right? But if it wasn't for, one, of course, situations and community which we came from, then, you know, in order to grow past the different levels, you have to have help or support, which comes from the community first, and then that extends outside the community. And the hardest part is keeping the money within our community and what we have to do to maintain that. Of course, to achieve commercial success, they tell us you have to cross over. And they've been saying this since, you know, music has begun, when a lot of the doo-wop groups they're like, oh, we got to cross over to make money, and we got to do all these different things. And if you remember the old 5 Heartbeats, why they never cross over to us? The old 5 Heartbeats saying, well, if
they're doing it now.
Right. Yeah. And bringing it full circle, if we mine it, if we take our natural resource, if all they're going to give us blacks is sports and entertainment, then we need to control it. You know, if you see what LeBron James is doing, he's taking way more control of his career. You know, even with the collective bargaining agreement, when they had the lockout, you know, some of the top players told the younger players, don't cross. They started floating each other money. They was taking care of each other. And he was like, okay, yo, Kobe was paying some folks, Shaq, everybody was paying people. They're like, nah, we got a bigger, now you got people on the end of the bench making 50 million that never play because of the uniformity of their cause. So, you know, that's part of how we do it.
So the athletes can hang together that way. But that's hard in your business, so.
Well, yeah, I think that, I think for us, it's a lot more bravado involved in what we do. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot more competition, although there is an unspoken support that comes from this community within Atlanta. Regardless of whether we agree with one another, we like each other or not, we're still going to support it because of what's best for the city and what's best for the commodity, the number one commodity of the city, which is culture. And culture allows us to platform ourselves in different arenas, whether it's film, we're telling stories that relate to the culture, whether it's music, we're still, you know, singing songs that relate to the people from the culture, whether it's fashion, we're selling clothes that appeal to the culture. The culture is the number one commodity, and that allows us, you know, so many different avenues to I guess, expound upon financially.
But you know, we've had here some of the top 10 economic people in the world, in the country, through here this last week. And I was with one last night, and when he heard that you were coming here, he said, oh, yeah. He said, I got his music on my on my phone. So you have...
He was Caucasian, conservative, Republican, in charge of $12 trillion of financial movement.
But he got your record on his phone. Right. So I'm saying that... no, that
he knows about the hustle. He knows about the hustle.
No, you have a power and an influence that integrates America.
It does.
And you make people feel good about the way you pop your fingers and whatever it is. I mean, I'm just saying that when you're down and one of your old records comes on, or you start telling stories, or you start clowning and carrying on, let's don't underestimate that. Right. Most of us preachers basically are frustrated comedians. If we could talk dirty in church, we could make a living.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I think that there's a lot to be said, you know, to your point. Hip hop transcends culture, religion, age. It's truly diverse, and it's the it's the #1 genre like in the world. Hip hop is the most influential genre in the world. It brings in more profits than any other, than country music, rock and roll, R&B. Like hip hop is the thing that brought the world together. If you can't agree on anything else, you can agree that, you know, when 50 Cent in the club come on, you know, y'all, everybody dancing together. We can be arguing and we ain't gonna agree on the same football team, basketball team, but when Nothing But a G Thing, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg come on, everybody, you know what I'm saying? So hip hop has brought the world together, and I think that because we are artists and we operate from the most artist-driven part of the brain, that kind of, it gives us a different capacity when it comes to our financial planning, because a lot of us take much more significant risks because of our belief in our art. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you have people like, for instance, Kanye. You know, Kanye, they said that he was, you know, in a place of financial discrepancy, but what he did was, that's because he chose to put all of his money into his art. All of his money, he said, if I'm gonna bet on anything, I'm gonna bet on me. I can't convince them to see what I see. I can't convince you to see what I see, but I know what my art can do. I know what my work can do. So even though it's unconventional, even though it may come at some just highly disagreed upon opinions, I'm still going to do this and believe in belief of myself. And now we see what Kanye is because of that mentality. Now there are a lot of other people who ain't exactly Kanye who did the same thing and they didn't come out so well. But
even Martin Luther King was a hard sell in the beginning. When my parents and friends found out I was coming to Atlanta, they said, Lord, please don't hook up with them trifling Baptist preachers. They ain't never gonna amount to nothing. Oh, don't let your son get hooked up with them. They ain't about nothing.
What did your dad tell you about Martin Luther King, by the way?
That's what he said.
When you told me you were gonna be a preacher, what did he tell you?
Oh no, when he said I'm gonna be a preacher, I told him I was thinking about going to seminary. He said, well, all the preachers I know are either poor or crooked. And he said, I'm not going to waste my money on that. If you're going to do that, you're on your own. But I was thinking, Chris, about y'all's role is much like my philosophy of stress.
And Bastian, before you pivot on that, let me go back to T.I. for a minute. I'm going to suggest that what you just said is an and conversation, not an or conversation. Yeah. Because most of our mentors here, and his friend is Quincy Jones. He's my mentor. We were just at his house a few weeks ago, and Quincy told me a couple things that they stopped me. First of all, I don't know anybody else who can lose $200 million in a Time Warner merger and still be worth $300 million. But Quincy told me one day, if you think you're in the music business and you don't own music rights, publishing rights, title rights, licensing rights, if you don't own some kind of rights, you're actually not in the music business. You're just a temporary performer.
That's true.
And so, yes, unconventional approach, yes, bank on your arts, but bank on your art. In other words, own the product underneath the talent. Don't just rock a mic, bounce a basketball, or swing one. Own the bat cage, own the stage. And I think that there's some interesting and important lessons from Quincy, and I think you have lived what I'm talking about, so I'm not telling you any. I just want to make sure the audience is hearing it's an and, not an or. What were you about to say, Chaka?
It is a slightly disjointed conversation. So to start with Tip, they would consider us the wayside folks, the people who fell by the wayside, the lost ones, right? And we have to be do-it-yourselfers. When I say it's a natural resource and you have to mine it, that means you have to dig. You have to come where it is. You have to find some land and you got to dig. So you got to find communities and you got to dig. You got to approach the youth. Then when you start realizing what the youth are into, then you start putting structure around it,
Right.
where you invest in it,
Right.
or where you develop it, and then you start to see what's really possible.
Right.
Because if he would have had early investment, he would be 20 times surpassed where he is, and probably not had to deal with any mishaps or missteps through the process. Same thing here, same thing with anybody else.
Yeah.
So we need, when I say natural resource, early investment and structure, then you take it into the business perspective.
Right.
What does that mean in business? What is it? Everything is asset driven.
Right.
Right? So what are the assets in entertainment?
Did you guys hear that? Everything is asset.
Right? Everything has to be connected to an asset.
Yeah. Sure.
And then so what happens is, if you're not a do-it-yourselfer who has the gut, the grit to pull up from your stomach, figure it out, got friends, whatever, hustle, and then figure out how to make it happen, you look for an investor. Then when the labels come in and invest, they're like, well, yeah, we'll invest in you, but we need everything. Yeah. Now, you're not educated.
Right.
So, somebody believes in me.
Right.
Okay, well, give me $30,000 and I'll give you everything that comes out of my body.
Right.
All right? And if not for certain people, he was a do-it-yourselfer, we were do-it-yourselfers, went independent, started our process, used that to leverage up, because negotiation is about what you ask for, not what you deserve, right? You gotta negotiate to get what you want. They're never gonna give you what you deserve, right? And that takes leverage. Do-it-yourselfers get that leverage, but part of that, which goes to what you were just saying, is we also get an arrogance about we've done it ourselves. And it takes a minute to get to that space of actually working together where you get to the CBA and the collective bargaining agreements that the athletes get to.
Right.
So we're all in the same boat. We're just at different stages. But if we get in earlier, any early investors are the ones who get the best reward. And if we can get, right. So if you get in with us, our youth, our communities, and we start to mine our natural resources, even if it's just sports and entertainment right now.
Right.
We'll get into the doctors, lawyers, actors, or whatever else.
Sure.
But right now, this is what they're giving us, then we need to control it. And I mean, Atlanta, like you said, is the front running leader where we lead cultural hip hop. So we're the literal hub of hip hop, which means everything in the world is affected by what happens in the neighborhoods and the cities that we do in Atlanta.
We control the culture. You know, the things that we do out here effortlessly, unconsciously, how we live our lives and wear our clothes and
lingo.
Yeah, how we speak, those things, they catch on.
Yep.
You know, those dances that you see people doing, the dab, you know, like that went from here.
It's in Africa.
That went from here to around the world now to where, you go to the cool kids out there in the hood now, they're like, man, what you doing dabbing? Come on, man, get out of here. That's not, but it's just something that small and seemingly insignificant to someone who doesn't have eyes that fit the culture. They wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't see it as a commodity.
And my last point would be,
until Cam Newton does it,
on a commercial level.
On a commercial level.
And my last point, I know you want to get to Chris, is that this is not a new phenomenon. We've seen this happen with black culture our whole lives. So, but the thing that's different is the timing. Yeah. Whether it's with post-Wakanda, Atlanta's Wakanda now, or whatever it may be, or the Trump era. Like now, it's about circling these wagons and investing in ourselves, and then our finances will become way more.
So just to be
okay,
clear,
Ambassador Young, what was you gonna ask me? I can't wait no more. I can't wait no more.
No,
Since John Lewis interrupted us.
Whoa.
What was you gonna say? I want to hear from the wise man.
Well, hold on, Chris Rock. Hold on, Chris Rock. Hold on, Chris Rock.
All right, Jamie Foxx.
Hold on, Chris.
All right, okay, Ambassador, what you was gonna ask?
So hold on, wait, Ambassador. Wait. So, Chaka, T.I., I want to make sure the audience is hearing us clearly. You said asset. Everything is asset-based. You said invest in the culture. You're a venture capitalist for your own talent. You've invested venture capital in your own talent for a return, which in large part you own. And if we can convert that culture into something we own and control, it's a asset. So I'm just saying, I want to be clear that it's culture, it's all that, it's good feelings, but it's also business. It's show business.
Sure. However, but I'm saying we have to convince the formal institutions of finance to see our culture as an asset.
Got it.
You see, because right now they just see it as things kids do.
Got it.
And so when I go in and I say I need $1.5 million to do a documentary about the dab, just hypothetically speaking, you're gonna say, get out of here, I'm not spending 1.5. Well, how do we monetize it? Okay, well, people don't know exactly all of the different places that these assets produce funds. And it's hard to determine and dictate that ahead of time without prior knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you've never experienced it, if I want some money to shoot a video, you're like, well, how am I going to get my money back? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, well, you get X amount of dollars for streams, and, we can, but that seems foreign to you because you were already trained to fit your thoughts of investment into this box.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we got to get the people who control the finances to think outside the box so we don't have to spend so much of our own money.
Got it.
Is there any way that we as a community, people in this room, can help you with your ideas and your performances and things? What can we do?
Oh. I was thinking about that other
question. Chris.
No. First of all, I want to thank Ambassador Young for it's just an honor and a blessing to have him here with us. Because you got to think about, without the sacrifices, what he has done and so many others, Martin Luther King, none of us would this even be possible to walk in a hotel. There's so many countries that's still behind because they didn't have people that gave their lives and died for us to have, as African Americans and so many others, women and other minorities. They really, I love history. I love history, and I watch a lot of history. And I said, man, the things that they went up against. And I encourage you to go to the African American Museum in D.C. You see, it's unbelievable. It'll change your life. The suffering that my ancestors been through, and many other people's ancestors in different races, but particularly my African Americans, what they've been through coming over here on the boats, going through slavery, all these things. I take all that into consideration where I'm at now and where this generation is at right now and all the opportunities that I've had and given. And it's just a blessing. So thank you so much, Ambassador Young, for your sacrifice and everything you've done.
I'll answer that question. If it's about what you can do to help, and again, it's so vast. There's a million rappers. There's a million people that want to be in the entertainment industry, and everybody doesn't deserve to be, or you deserve to live your dreams out. You can say it. You deserve to live your dreams out, but everybody ain't good.
All this stuff ain't good.
But what I would say is when you realize, or when you start to see a seed sprout, or a person matriculate through certain levels of business, you say, well, listen, they went through all of these different things and they got to a particular level, then you start to meet them. Even if you're not an early investor, then you come in on the second round or the third round, right? When you sit there and you look at everything that he's been through and everything that I've been through, and we've gotten to a certain level now, okay, well, those guys got to know something. There's got to be some value there.
You're a manager. You're not an entertainer.
Yeah.
However, he still has a commodity because he obviously has a keen eye for talent. Right. So if he walks into a room and say, this guy is going to be the next thing, then you have to give him credit for the times he said that and he was right.
No, it's called a transferable skill.
Right. But it's also, you also are managing talent.
Right. But if you can,
and personality.
And this is storied. If you can run the streets, if you can sell things in the streets, you can run a Fortune 500 company. You understand what I'm saying? If you can control a gang, you can run an army. These are called transferable skills. You're just not putting the people in the position or the place to actually use the skills in a positive way.
You know what? I taught a class when I was in my forced extended education.
What is going on today?
I love it.
What class was that?
Elevated learning.
Wonderful. Yes.
Now, I taught a class, and it was called Thinking Outside of the Box, and how to take the skills that you already had as a criminal and applying them to how you could.
Well, let me say, hold on.
I mean, really, every criminal has a skill.
Absolutely.
Don't laugh.
Serious.
Don't laugh.
Yeah, this was.
That he was innocent. He was set up. And he was serving time that he really didn't deserve to serve. I'm saying that. I'm saying that. But if not you, no. But hold up. If not
Hold
you.
up, wait a minute.
No. If not you, there at least half of the brothers out here who are in jail would not be in jail if they were not poor and black.
This is true.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is that just as you are embracing that and saying how you turned it into a positive experience, that's sort of what happened with Nelson Mandela. The kids that went to jail with Mandela in Robben Island for 10 years came out calling that Robben Island Nelson Mandela University. See? I remind people all the time, half of the books in the Bible were written in jail. See?
That's true.
If Martin Luther King had written a letter from the Ebenezer office instead of the letter from the Birmingham jail, nobody would have paid any attention to it.
Yeah, that's true.
See? And so I'm saying that we are in an alien culture, and quite often we become needless victims. But that should not make us look down on ourselves or each other.
Right.
And you're absolutely right that maybe you needed it, maybe you didn't. But regardless, you learn from it, and you've grown from it, and you're helping others.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever experience we have.
Sure.
Now, you came out of show business and went back to where?
Clark Atlanta University.
Clark Atlanta University. And got your degree.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And he's a businessman now.
You know, you asked a great question, as you usually do. And it was the involvement of the community and especially here in this wonderful place we call home. And there's a lot of great opportunities, especially having taken over the #1 market for movies in the United States. We had so much, people don't understand that we weren't so much just battling against like New York and California. Most of our battle was actually from Canada. We were in a global fight, you know, of what they were trying to do outside of the States. And when the Writers Guild, the Directors Guild, and the Actors Guild got together and created this report, they realized where the millions and millions was going. And it wasn't California and it wasn't New York. It was, you know, Toronto and different parts of Canada. But I think part of what we need as some of the projects that we're working on is that there's a lot of different businesses that's literally outside of just where the studio's at. That's where they're hurting at right now in California. I don't know why they didn't change the rules to kind of get back some of their business, but we'll take it. But there's a lot of ancillary community jobs that, you know, that plays a part of how a studio gets made. And so there's a lot of great ideas. We're needing scripts. You know, we need writers. We need more entertainers coming from here. We do a lot of movies here, but the actors aren't from here.
There's no infrastructure.
You know, so we're still going from other places to get our talent, and some of the production people are coming from over there. So as we continue to grow our base, that's what we need from our community.
You talking about the help me out, the electrical workers, yeah, you can give me, absolutely, give me some love for that. Can you define a little bit further, like what are the opportunities that you're looking for?
Okay, for instance, you go to a movie and you look at that end credit. The actors and the producers, writers, they're gonna be about this much of the credit. The rest of that 3-4 minutes you're looking at, that's where your base is at. All the rest of that list you see on your end of your credits. You take time, most people kind of cut out. Absolutely, every piece of that. If you take a moment to look at the credits, most people walk out. But when you're walking out on all those opportunities, these careers, because these aren't jobs, these are careers.
That's right. Well-paying careers.
The skill set is so high that it cannot be a job. You got to know that you know on how to expand, because of kind of the question that you have in mind is there's so many advancement in technology and so much advancement on what's going on, and you got to kind of have a little bit of a history of what's going on, what has happened in our industry from film to TV to music. And if you coming inside of the business on day one and you're doing what was done 5 years ago, you know, you're going to get laughed out the office. That's been done. We're trying to go to the next level. So there's a lot of assets, a lot of economic growth in our base that we haven't yet created. And all that base, that money that's coming here, but it is not staying here.
Right. That's right.
So I'll amend that. So what Emmanuel was talking about is infrastructure. There's no investment in infrastructure. Atlanta's a flow-through city. It's been like that even in the music industry.
Repeat that?
It's a flow-through city.
Flow-through city.
Right? You come here, the beauty of Atlanta is it's accessible. You know what I'm saying? Everybody could come here. You can been lame when you was home, but when you come here, you could be the toughest, bro. You can be whatever you want to be when you come. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, right?
It's like the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So when you come here, but like I said, people take it out of the city. So Hollywood is here. We got these incentives for another 10 to 12 years. But if they up and leave tomorrow, or somebody gives them a 50% incentive, we don't have any infrastructure where we could develop and cultivate our own natural resource. I'm going to keep going back to natural resource if y'all haven't gotten it yet, right? But the infrastructure, who does this? The drivers, licensing, zoning, I mean, you name it, all of these opportunities are there. Part of that challenge, and I'll swing this quick pivot, is that we have participation in the city level, but we don't have it on the state level. So I do know that there's a governor's race getting ready to come up. I hope y'all hear me. And we need to be looking at putting that on the board, because, yeah, Atlanta shot most of Black Panther, but the state is what generated the $9 billion. Now, you know what I'm saying? So it's not just Atlanta. We get some good stuff, but they shooting everywhere. But again, infrastructure. You know, what are the things that allow all these other things to happen? And we dealt with that in the music industry, and it was a gift and a curse. You know, when L.A. Reid was here, you had infrastructure. When he left, we all had to fend for ourselves, and we had to become do-it-yourselfers. And it worked, because it made a lot of us millionaires, and plus, just doing it ourselves, and it gave us the knowledge. Now, we need greater investment in the knowledge that he's cultivated just through his process, myself and plenty of other people in the city, that if we do it right now, we can build the infrastructure and we can control it for however long we want to control it.
And another thing, I think that music as a commodity has to be acknowledged in a different light. Because just like you can go on paper and you can show how much films bring here, I can show you 2-3 times that over the course of a decade for music. Music has brought more concerts here. Music has employed more people, studios, and more entrepreneurs have been able to sustain their success, whether they're talent or executives or whatever they are. Right. But we don't have a tax credit. We don't have a consideration. We haven't been incentivized to stay here. You know what I'm saying? So I think, but that's the thing, and that's what I was talking about when I said the people who are in control of the finances in the formal institutions, they look at what we have generated millions of dollars from still as like a game, like a plaything. Like this is, oh yeah, that's cute. Nah, well, you know, we just made $12 million. You know, so why doesn't that count for next time when I want to do the same thing that just made $12 million? Why are you still treating me like I'm begging you for something?
So, you know, you're educating me. I'm sitting here and I'm learning from you of what a sort of a gap and a need. I'm listening to you and I'm hearing you. So, Ambassador Young, if you don't mind, you're the honorary chairman of the Board of Operation Hope. And I hope I'm not going to give Dr. Nita Ward, our president, a heart attack when I say this, but I am the chairman and the founder. This is not much, T.I. This is not much, but it's a start. I'm going to commit two things. Again, this idea is like 3 minutes old. But one, I'm going to put together a group of institutional lenders and capital providers and venture capitalists. I'm going to ping my guy, Tony Ressler, who's a billionaire here in town, a bunch of others, and get them on a list. I'm going to get their boys in a room, or ladies, whatever they say, and we're going to learn from you and from whoever you put together. We're going to learn this art. We're going to, if you want to teach them, I'm going to commit to you. They'll commit the time, and they'll be open to learn the business, to understand how to underwrite these credits. That's number one. But that's not enough, I don't think.
That's all right.
No.
That's a start.
That's a start.
That's a start.
So we're also going to do, I haven't done this in 25 years. I don't even know what I'm saying, but we're going to put up a Hope Fund. It's going to be $500,000. I'm going to put up the first $50,000 to fund the kind of projects you're talking about. Don't ask me the underwriting criteria. I have no idea what I'm saying right now. But I'm going to put up $50,000. We're going to find another $450,000 from folks. Just start somewhere so we can begin to do some low-risk projects in your space. We got to make sure they work. Otherwise, you know what's going to happen. They're going to say, I told you that stuff didn't work. Right. But I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. We're going to put up some money. We're going to do it this year. And then you guys can do what you want.
Right, so to save you and protect you for just jumping out the window, right? A lot of what we're talking about, even though we're pinpointing some of the issues.
Wait a minute, excuse me, I'm sorry. Thank you, sir.
Look, secure the money first. Secure the money first. Don't throw the money out. Let's get this.
And to be sure, we accept. But
I was going to say, we're pinpointing a lot of the issues, but it's not like we don't have at least ideas and answers on how to fix them, or we're in the process of doing some of those things. Even from this tax credit and things like that, we've made small steps where now music incentives are attached to film, but we need our own incentives because we have our own different culture. So that's what he's stating. So all of the things that we're talking about, yes, there are answers to that. And investment is key, but the other element of that is infrastructure within our industry and bringing our ass to the table. So it does make sense because we don't, and I've seen people do it. I've been, I ain't gonna say no names, they'll go into certain meetings, whether it's Coca-Cola or different companies or whatever. I come in the meeting behind them and they done ruined all the money. Because, again, people can present themselves to be whatever, everybody think they're the mayor of Atlanta. That's my city, it's my city, but if you ain't this guy, respectfully me and a few other people, you can't touch every corner of every aspect of the city. And we say that humbly in the sense of, again, the levels that we went through in our careers to be at this point, that deserves investment. Even if you didn't invest 20 years ago, we're still doing it on a high level, and you can look on paper and see how much money he's generated from the first record he's made to the last film.
No, Chaka, it offends me that you have to even explain this. It hurts me. I understand what you're saying. It hurts me that you even have to explain this. It should be obvious, all right? He didn't need to talk to me for an hour about this. I mean, he said, 5 sentences. The first time he said it took a minute, all right? Second time, okay. But by the fourth time, I'm thinking about what we can do about it. So all I'm just saying is, I get it. It's a big miss. You shouldn't even have to, this shouldn't be a problem, right? But it's also an opportunity.
Right.
100%.
Now here's the beautiful, now I'm gonna tell you, I don't want to return on our money. We want our money back if we can get it, But when you're doing venture capital, who knows? I just want to make sure what I don't want is have an embarrassment where somebody say, I told you we shouldn't do that, because I know you know how that happens.
Right.
So as long as we do it right, if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. But if it hits, let's make the money go right back into the community that we're serving, so that other people get a benefit to lift up.
Let me, we sought out of time, but I just want to say that you all are part of this movement that John and Ron and all of his buddies started in Los Angeles. And he doesn't like me to say this, but he's got more nerve than a brass-ass monkey. And I don't know where, and I kept trying to figure out, where did this brother get so bad? And finally I figured it out. He grew up with Soul Train.
Okay.
He was a Soul Train dancer.
Okay.
And so was Rod McGrew.
Okay.
And where they built their self-confidence to put the biggest economic conference that's ever been put together in Atlanta was doing their little thing down.
So what is he on today?
When you got.
I missed it.
Do it one more time, y'all.
He did a
Do it one more time.
Compliment.
John, do that one more time, man. It happened so fast.
Now
That's it. Woo! We can go.
that was an impressive move,
That
but
was right on the
I'm
track.
even more impressed with the stitching in them trousers. That
Who
was,
makes your suit? Oh my God.
man, that suit made out of vibranium. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
I didn't know you knew how to do a split, man.
Thank you.
You don't tell me everything.
You don't want to hang out with Michael Jackson. You should know.
Yeah.
Michael couldn't even do a split, man. Incredible what you guys did.
No, he couldn't.
I'm gonna just say, I know we're getting ready to wrap up. I just want to say, because I know it's entertaining and we've talked about a lot of things. As a people and as a community, all our issues are compounded. So for the early investors in the room, get to the early investing. For the people that like to wait till it's scaled and see, like, let's create this infrastructure of how we develop and we get our youth culture and our youth and our community developed up. You've seen the guy, I forgot his name, he's Richard, who just sold Shea Moisture. And in his sale, he created a fund to reinvest into other.
Richard Lou Dennis?
Yes, Richard Lou Dennis.
Richard Lou Dennis. This is Roland Martin over here, by the way.
Yes, sir, Mr.
What's
Martin.
up, Mr. Martin? How you doing, sir?
And in the sale of his company, he created another fund to invest in companies similar to his back in our communities, specifically more so with, I think, women. But it's just saying that, you got all of this wealth, you control these funds, you control this opportunity to trickle down a little bit. It's like water the flower, it sprouts, water it some more. You just keep, it's not rocket science. It's just, you gotta, have some balls, or some.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Did I say a bad word?
Nah. I think everything he's saying is absolutely correct, man. And he speaks with a different skill set and a different knowledge of the business from, the back line more so. I'm more, even though I have some information from hanging around people like him and Jason Jeter and so on. God bless the dead, but Shaquille Stewart. I've soaked up more than most people in my position may know. But how to balance the books of a tour, like that's him. How to make sure asses in the seats. See, that's me. You know what I'm saying? So this
Got
is
some great asses in these seats.
Yo.
All righty.
Cut his mic off. Ambassador's on one today.
What we have to understand, right? What we have to understand, for you guys as investors, what's important is you got to understand the skill set of the person you're speaking to. Don't look for me to balance the books.
Right.
And don't look for him to put the asses in the seats. You got to know the talents of the people that you are investing in. And that's the only way you can adequately judge whether or not it's going positive or negative.
No, that's a very, look, I've been learning something. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We listen twice as much as we talk.
That's right.
And I try to learn something every day. We were at a session last night with MSNBC with Reverend Al Sharpton and Joy Reid, and it was Phil Griffin of NBC and Philippe Bourguignon. It was really beautiful, this documentary on, and Ambassador Young is in it, of course, on the lens, the power of the lens, the media on the civil rights movement. And Reverend Al Sharpton said something that just blew me away. He said, I repeated it a couple times there, I'm gonna repeat it again. He said, people say I'm not in the, you know, I'm not giving solutions or whatever. He said, look, when we're protesting, we're not trying to create a solution. We're trying to raise awareness to a problem. That's our job.
That's right.
He said, so, well, Reverend Al Sharpton, all you want is media attention. He said, yeah, that's all I want is media attention. In other words, and so I didn't realize before he said that, the value, the singular value of that action, and he knows his lane. Right?
Well,
bravo, Reverend Al Sharpton.
Yeah, but
I'm in a different lane trying to create some solutions.
That's right.
I'd be a lousy protester, but I'm really good at what I do.
Right.
You just basically said the same thing about yourself and about Chaka, and heaven knows if Chris ain't funny, with all of it, there ain't no church on Sunday. So you know, we all in a different lane, but together we can create a beautiful mosaic.
I mean, one thing that we got to also recognize is, and I said this earlier, I'm gonna say it again, the culture is what powers every commodity that leaves out of this city and brings money back. Without the culture, if people wasn't going to Magic City or the Gold Room or wherever it is you go to have a good time and enjoying this music, then it wouldn't make the top the Hot 100s. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be like, it starts with the culture. And what I believe happened to the music business is they wanted to remove the power of the art from the artist. You see, in the golden years, you know, where let me see, I think it was 96 through 2000, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you know, you said 3-4 million records, when, you know, Master P went from a drug dealer 1 year to a $500 million in 2 years, and everybody looked up like, whoa, hold up, man, we got like 7, 8 black guys from projects with hundreds of millions of dollars now, and they giving us their ass to kiss. We need to hold up on this. So I believe, this is just my little conspiracy, I believe a bunch of people who had a lot of influence and things got in a room and said, we can only let them get so big or else they won't need us, okay? So what they did was they removed the power that was in the art and they put it into technology. So now, you don't think that you are supposed to go and pay for a song or pay for an album, but you will pay for the app that will allow you to listen to the songs for free. You see what I'm saying? So that is kind of what happened to the music business in maybe, 2005 or 6 or something like that. But what we have to recognize is music, an album is an experience. You know what I'm saying? It's an experience. You sit down and you listen and it's like riding a roller coaster when it's done right. You know what I'm saying? You got peaks and valleys and twists and turns, loop-de-loops if they're good. But you can't get that if you just listening to a bunch of songs that people decided to throw together on a playlist.
Right.
And like, you don't get that same experience if you don't get to flip through the booklets and read who produced this and, you know what I'm saying? Even the thank yous I used to read, you know what I'm saying?
We grew up.
Like, they don't have that experience anymore. And I think that is another, to find a way to get the power, the equity of the art back into the hands of the artists, I think would do all of us a great service.
Let me just say that, we are bringing a great conference to a close, but you all are opening up a new dialogue, a new business opportunity. And I don't know when, but some young brothers got a nice place together called The Gathering Spot.
Very good. They spoke here.
Huh?
They spoke here this week.
Yeah. Well, but I'm saying that we need to gather there sometime in the near future, and we need to think again. What is the next round of this battle? And we've waged a battle forever, and it's not going to end. But whenever we get knocked down, we get up. And what you say makes good sense, but there's an answer to it.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think the people who own the technology have the answer. I think the people who have the passion, the culture, and the art are here.
Right on.
And maybe we can get together a couple of nights and have a prayer meeting. And the Lord will make a way out of no way. Amen.
As always.
That's right.
As always.
Does anybody want to have any closing remarks?
You know, I've been trying to talk all day long. The last time I get up with these smart Negroes. All I know is funny.
You put it together?
I sure did call every last one of y'all. But honestly, you know, they all said some great stuff, and you know, I'm in the movie business, and the movies are the biggest export we do in America, the biggest business America got. So I'm in the right business. But Emmanuel was saying the right thing. We need more writers. We need more. Two of my family members got jobs in the movie business here. So it's jobs here, and I visit all the studios down here to talk with them. And then they was telling me stories about dry cleaners, getting more dry cleaning, more stores, because they dry clean, they clean everybody, all the studios closed. They clean Tyler Perry's studio closed, and Pinewood's closed. So it's a lot of money out there to be made. And
don't forget the hairdressing.
And the hairdressing. They got to, you know, people got to get their hair and makeup. So it's a lot of money out there to be made. And also, you know, I've learned in my career, I made a lot of money. I was once the highest paid actor in Hollywood. Once. Not right now. Don't be asking me for no money. No, but saving your money and also not getting into debt. You know, thank God I learned at an early age. I'm still a young man. You know, no more debt. I done had everything I ever wanted. So, you know, my thing, and I could just stress to you guys, try not to get in any debt. I was at my richest when it was no credit cards. I used to hide my money under my mattress back in the day. And, but, you know, try not to have any debt. Try to, you know, be smart with your money and try to plan for the future. And you're going to be all right, because you're going to live a long time. You're going to live a long time.
Now,
I pray to God.
In case there's any young people in there who think that Chris has set the bar of their financial expectations up a tad too high, if you gon' ball, okay, if you gon' decide I'm going to go splurge $50,000 on a watch or $150,000 on a car, this is a little tool I use. Just buy just as much property. So that means if you want to buy a $50,000 watch, go buy that $50,000 watch, then go get you a $50,000 piece of property somewhere, so it balances out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
Now, you got to make a little more money, work a little harder, maybe lose a little sleep, but you'll feel better about it, you know, in days to come.
Like they said, they're not making no more properties, no more land. So you're right. You're absolutely right.
So we all respect and admire Ambassador Andrew Young, and we are all standing really on his tall shoulders. I can't say enough for my play father. He is hilarious. He is brilliant. He is amazing. He is unpredictable. I don't know of anybody else in the world other than the late Nelson Mandela who has this kind of pedigree, and he has 125 honorary doctorate degrees. I got one. Can we, before we say anything else, I got one last thing to say, but can we, before we say anything else, let's show him our appreciation right now.
Thank you, Ambassador. We love you, Ambassador.
Yes, sir.
Let me share with two pieces of advice that one I got as a child, the other as a young adult. The first one was from my father when I was 4, and the Nazi party was on the corner of my house, Highland Hitler. He said white supremacy is a sickness. You don't get mad at sick people, and you don't let them get you upset. Don't get mad, get smart. See? Now, the other one I got from a fellow like you by the name of Red Fox.
Okay.
And Red Fox said that the greatest danger we face as a people in an oppressed society is stress. Stress and anger and frustration will kill you.
Yeah, that's true.
So Red Fox had what he called a new soap to wash away the stress in your life. And it was F-U-G-G. And his slogan was, if Lux won't do it, if Does won't do it, fuck it.
This dude right here. This dude right here. This dude right here. Take this picture. Come over here.
Everybody, hold on.
Take a photo right here.
Yeah, hold on. Ambassador, you want a photo? Come here, Ambassador, a photo. Hey, on a serious note, I don't want anybody to have any illusions of what brought this together. Chris Tucker must have been on the phone with me a dozen times in the last week. I asked him, did he want a car service? No, I got my own. Do you need me to pay anybody? No, we good. Can't do anything? No, you useless, John Bryant. He called Chaka. He called T.I. He dragged Emmanuel here at the last minute. Chris Tucker did this out of the goodness of his heart. Please thank Chris Tucker.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay,
Right.
folks, I just want to say, if you want to be a part of moving ahead, be part of Operation Hope. Go to operationhope.org, give a donation, become a part of the solution that is going to come to America. Operationhope.org. You can be in on the beginning of this new production company and everything else. We will stay in touch. God bless you all. Safe travels home. And we'll see you next April, 2018, Hope Global Forum. Actually, it'll be 2019, Hope Global Forum.